Rolf Maritz at the wheel. So there it is, the Lorenz Fry, Rolf Maritz and Freddie Barth Lotus as behind, side by side for second. Through comes Roberti, but Felipe Albuquerque is about to take the place on the inside line, going up to turn 1. Through he goes. Roberti slots back in behind him. Can he make a move going up towards turn 2? They're both stuck there behind the slower car that gets out of the way. Rolf Maritz moves to one side of the road then, nose to tail. Albuquerque then just with Roberti on his tail, but I think now that he's ahead, the Audi should be able to pull away here. That gap should build as they drop downhill once again. Felipe Albuquerque up into second spot. Yeah, the gap is building. 2 corners after he's gained the place, so daylight is evident between the 2 cars. The gap widens as they climb uphill. 14.5 minutes to go. So after a stellar race at Monza, the Porsche here, not the most common of cars numerically really within the Pro Cup class, struggling a little bit. Roberti almost runs out of road there, heads towards the curb as they come onto that back straight. Another Porsche ahead, this time it's 37, and with his lights flashing. So Felipe Albuquerque able to get past the Stefano Villa car. Albuquerque then second, but I don't think he can do much about the race leader. The lap times of Michael Bartels suggesting now that he's not going to be caught from there. 14 more minutes to go. And down the order, we've had Fred Makovici move himself ahead of Albert von Thurn Taxis, so that puts Fred Makovici into 6th place, and he's catching as well Jean-Luc Bobelic. So that gap's coming down between those two also, as there is 61 now, the GT4 leading car. Rolf Maritz, Lorenz Fry, and the third driver of that car, Freddie Barth, having qualified it on pole position within GT4. So very disappointing for the Mansells. And let's catch up with exactly what the problems are for the number 70, because Hayley has news from the pit lane.
Leo, unfortunately, number 70 is sat in the garage. Can you explain what's going on with the Lotus?
Couldn't get any gears. Something wrong with the gearbox. I think it's the compressor. We're not entirely sure right now. So just hopefully get back on track so we can finish and get some points.
Is it likely you will be able to get the car back out there?
I don't know right now. We'll find out in a minute.
Thank you.
So very disappointing. The car leading by a lap and now losing lap after lap as it sits in the garage. So as I say, Lotus 61 takes over the class lead. And at the end of the next lap, number 63 Nissan of Chris Ward will be up into second in GT4. Well, there's the class leading Lotus. And so it was the type of car that was victorious at Monza, but there it was Piscopo and the Mansells that came out on top. And second within GT4 was the car, but with different drivers, because 61 Lotus at Monza had Landman, Schaber Walter and Florian Eichinger at the wheel, whereas Fry, Maritz and Barth were all driving the Gentle Swiss Racing Aston Martin, but en masse they have made a jump into a different car for this weekend. Looks like it's going to be the right move, doesn't it, because they're on target now for a class win. Albert von Thurn Taxis 7th, flashing his lights, and Fred Makovici, having moved himself up into the top 6 a couple of laps ago, is pulling away. It's Chris Ward, in fact, in the Nissan. I was just talking about that car now, second in GT4, that is being ushered out of the way by the charging Lamborghini. And Chris, as a good racing instructor does, keeps well out of the way, lets the faster car go by. So there is Fred Makovici, having worked his way up into the top 6. And as I say, he's closing on Jean-Luc Bobelic, but I don't think he's going to get there in time, because the gap that exists between the number 20 Ferrari and the number 4 Aston Martin is a whopping one. Matteo Bobbi back at the wheel now of number 38. He's down in 9th place. So the 38 Ferrari trying to play catch-up, but I don't think it's going to do a huge amount more from there after that late pit stop. For Vita 4-1, however, it is looking very good indeed. There's the leading car, and not only does it lead outright, of course it leads the Pro Cup. Michael Bartels, Nico Verdonk, and the man that did the opening stint, Frank Keckler, all working very well with this car. The team manager of the Ford GT, Maxime Martin, at the wheel of it, being summoned to the race director. The car down in 14th place, but there's been a contravention somewhere, so the race director wants a word. Michael Bartels, meantime, having a relatively easy time here. In fact, all he has to do is just keep out of trouble. His last lap was a slightly slower one, but he's got a big lead nonetheless over Felipe Albuquerque in second spot in the number 32 Audi, who in turn is pulling away from Paolo Roberti, who is not yet being caught by Greg Franchi. So the leading 4 looking as though they've stabilised for now. Bartels puts the headlights on to warn Fabian Michal of his progress, because the Gentleman Trophy class leader, 15th overall, needs to hop out of the way of the leading Ferrari. turning now up out of turn 2, well out of the way. Goes Fabien Michel. That's very gentlemanly. Don't just let him by, just drive off the road to give him plenty of room. So Fabien Michel is overtaken, is lapped, and that car now is 6 laps down on the race leader. Shows you the different pace between gentlemen racers and 3 pro drivers all in the one car. So Bartels, 10 minutes to go in this second round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, is looking set for a race win, and he was very confident pre-race that fuel was not going to be an issue here. They could comfortably do an hour, and so on that evidence, taking him at his word, I doubt that we're going to need to see that car back in for fuel. Heading up the pit lane again and back into the race is going Greg Mansell's Lotus. So as Leo, his brother, was suggesting, they can get back out, the aim being to try and score some points. Frank Keckler, Nico Verdonk watching to the end of the race, watching the screens. I think they're watching the screens rather than anything else in the garage. And we've now 9 minutes remaining. It's looking good, isn't it, for the player manager, really, Michael Bartels, whose team it is, who drives the car very, very quickly, and the German driver who has been a very vocal supporter and critic in equal measure of GT racing in recent years. Does exactly what his sponsors want, runs a very tight ship, and comes out of turn 15 heading up towards the line. Slightly intimidating persona about Michael until you start to probe away, but he's a pretty jolly chap underneath with this steely exterior. Loves his racing, loves winning, and for sure looks like there's another victory heading his way here. First time he's been able to add a GT3 victory to his long tally of GT wins. Felipe Albuquerque looks like it's going to be another second place in a row, however, having been second at Monza, and the Monza winning Porsche, there it is in third and falling away, Paolo Roberti. Greg Franchi, though, in 4th place, number 33, doing slower laps. He did a 1:43 last time. So as we get into the last 8 minutes or so of the race now, 1 or 2 cars starting to have a slower pace than you might have expected, unlike Matteo Bobbi, who is now the fastest man on the circuit in the number 38 Scuderia Vittoria Ferrari, absolutely flying. A flash of the headlights there from the Sofrev Ferrari, number 10. Way down the order. 18th is Jerome Policon, having lost 10 laps with that gearbox problem that kept him in the garage. And ahead of him is Duarte Felix da Costa, 10th with the Lamborghini, and looking strong, that car, within the Pro-Am Cup. Doesn't make life easy for Policon to find a way past him. It's not a battle for position, this, because they are many laps apart, but Jerome Policon, frustrating that he wasn't able to carry on the good work of Patrice Goillard, does in the end find a way past the winged Lamborghini, climbs uphill and heads now to turn 8. Duarte Felix da Costa and the Lamborghini 3rd in the Pro-Am Trophy, as Michael Bartels then ticks off the laps. Felipe Albuquerque last time was quicker than the leading car, but not significantly so in order to suggest that Bartels has a problem. And then Michael's next lap is back to a proper pace once again. So all you need to do is find one back marker in the way, and it affects your lap time, that's for certain. And Bartels now just using a bit of the curve out of turn 2. Looks as though a win is heading his way. Second, Felipe Albuquerque comes over the line now as Bartels goes into turn 4. So that's the margin between the 2 leading cars. The third is the Paolo Roberti driven Porsche. And then in 4th place, Greg Franchi, who last time did a 42. The lap before that he did a 1:43. So is he just being very consistent, or are things starting to go wrong for the Audi? Let's just keep an eye to its next lap. It's coming over the timing line now. You're looking at 32, which is the second place car of Felipe Albuquerque, looking good for another podium finish, another second place in a row. Over the line has gone Franchi, 4th place. It's another lap in the 1:42, so they're okay, if not stellar. 5th is Jean-Luc Bobelic's number 20 Ferrari, and in 6th place is number 4, which is the Fred Makovici Aston Martin, and Fred is still closing on Bobelic, but I think he's got too much to make up before the very end. So Paolo Roberti, they're in 3rd place in the Porsche. As far as the GT3 class is concerned, it's going to be very close indeed going to Spa. If you think that this car will have had a win and a 3rd, and the Audi will have had 2 seconds, be building up nicely. The Italian Auto Orlando Sport team, winners on home soil, set for 3rd in Spain. It's the German Vita 4-1 team leading the way, with the Belgian WRT Belgian Audi Club run, Audi R8 second and fourth. This is the fourth place car. Greg Franchi then, the Belgian driver, having taken over from Marcel Fassler, who in turn took over from Andrea Piccini after Andrea pitted early, thinking there was about to be a safety car, which never turned out to be the case. We got one a bit later, but not when he was anticipating it. And the car, I think, to recover from all that, having lost a lap early on to finish in fourth place, helped by the next safety car, admittedly, is no mean result. There, heading the Pro-Am Cup, is Jean-Luc Bobelic, who is coming up towards the end of the lap, still being chased by Fred Makovici, but Fred, quicker last time by a second and a half, has now got himself caught up in traffic. So Jean-Luc is not only looking secure again in fifth overall, but also looking ever more secure for the class win, because Paul van Splunteren is not really able to make up much of that three-quarter of a lap deficit that was what he had to do when he started his stint. Just over 4 minutes to go. We're looking at 3 laps, I would imagine, if that now, for the race-leading car. Michael Bartel's Ferrari 458, set for a first victory in Vita 4-1's hands, the 458. He's been a winner with other teams and other championships. There's Fred Makovici still storming on. Goes over the line, and in 6th overall, 5th in the Pro Cup. Turns now through turn 1. Makovici with a lap time of a 1:42.5 because of having to get past a back marker or two. That means that he's lost time to Jean-Luc Bobelic on that most recent lap, but it's a clear road ahead of him, certainly for the immediate few corners. So now he can start to up his pace once again, and Fred Makovici, one of those drivers that has basically one way of driving, and it's flat out. You see him just lock up slightly there as he goes in towards turn 6, climbs uphill, doing his level best to get the car back into contention. It was way down the order earlier on after Henri Moser and Gilles Vannelay's earlier stints. It had a drive-through as well when Vannelay was behind the wheel, so more time was lost earlier. Take some of that out of the equation from the drive-through, and I think it would be a lot closer to Bobelic and challenging for 5th place. 3 minutes to go, and there's the leader, Michael Bartels, wriggling his way past the Lotus. Greg Mansell back at the wheel of it for the last few laps, and the car 3rd in GT4, so it will get some points, but not as many as it should have had. Cruel Racing, a lap lead, as into the pit lane comes Greg Franchi. Now, I was suggesting that the car was getting slower, and he has come down the pit lane out of 4th place there. Number 33 Audi has just come into the pits now, keeping an eye, there it is, to what they're doing, and it looks like it's tyres. Slow puncture maybe, car not handling right, up on the jacks, dropped down again. All is good, say the team, send him back into the race. So they've jacked it up and had a look, but they've done no more than that. Sent Greg Franchi back into the race, but is he going to be able to hang on to 4th place? Goes through now. So Greg Franchi in the number 33 Audi, a late race stop, clearly not happy with the feel of the car. Gone back into the race, but that would have cost him time, and not that far behind now. He's going to be on turn on taxis there, so he has lost ground as a consequence of that. As over the line goes Michael Bartels. We've got 2 minutes to go this lap and 1 more, so 2 more to go for Bartels, number 1. Making a change this year from the GT1 World Championship, because the Maserati MC12 that he's been running needed 2 teams. Bartels had the funding for his 2-car effort, but there wasn't another team with the finance available to run the second team, and the regulations say that a car can be in if run by 2 separate squads, and it didn't happen this year. So Vitaphone Racing had to call time on the Maserati MC12 project, a car that has really done Michael Bartel's team proud over recent years, and instead it's turned its attention to the Blancpain Endurance Series, and successfully so, it seems. A lap and a half away from a win. There, second is Felipe Albuquerque in the 32 Audi. A little bit slower last time. You can see the gap. It's the best part of half a lap really between the top 2 now, but it's going to be a second of the season for Felipe Albuquerque, who comes through turn 8 now. In 3rd place, the winning car from Monza, the Porsche of Paolo Roberti. So the 2nd placed Audi at the end of the back straight. Paolo Roberti is behind. You can see what that gap is. It's effectively the length of the straight between 2nd and 3rd places. And the Scuderia Vittoria 458 is next. 9th now, Matteo Bobbi back behind the wheel after that last pit stop, a late race pit stop to put him on board the car. Greg Franchi has just gone over the timing line. He held on to his 4th place despite the pit stop, and so Michael Bartels comes through He's going to squeeze one more lap out of the race as the number 1 Ferrari goes over the timing line. So for the Vita 4-1 team, Nico Verdonk and the man that started, Frank Kekler, who did a great opening stint, Michael Bartels, is going to bring the car home. There are the mechanics making their way out onto the pit wall. It's going to be 1st and 8th, but also it's going to be a Pro Cup win, and as far as the second car is concerned, 2nd in the Pro Am Cup. Not a bad day's work for the Vita 4-1 team. Number 1, after a starter motor problem, stopped it in its tracks at Monza, having its first finish of the year. Number 2 at least did finish the race in Italy, 13th overall, and the car came home way down in its class, but at least it was a finisher. But here it's going to be an outright win, seemingly, for the number 1 Ferrari. Half a lap to go now for Michael Bartels. And already starting to celebrate there, Frank Kekler and Nico Verdonk, the young German driver Frank Kekler, the Belgian driver Nico Verdonk, who not only are quick drivers in their own right, but I think it's fair to say they're probably learning a lot from the old master, Michael Bartels, here, being something of a father figure to the 2 young chargers, and it's probably very good for their career development as well, being put into a team like this with Michael, with his eye for detail as a team manager and with his ability as a driver. So he comes now up towards the last couple of corners, and this is going to be the end of 102 laps of racing. 1 corner to go at the Rd2 Navarra for the second round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. The 4th placed Audi gets out of the way, so it avoids doing another lap. Greg Franchi goes a lap down, but saves himself a lap of fuel in so doing. Up then towards the checkered flag. It is a win for Vita 4-1, for Ferrari, and for Michael Bartels, who takes the checkered flag along with Frank Kekler and Nico Verdonk, who are very happy indeed, understandably so. The celebrations have started on the pit wall, and it's the first victory by name for Vita 4-1, the team that's come out of Vitaphone Racing. 2nd over the line there is the Audi of Stefano Ortelli, Bert Langin and Felipe Albuquerque, a car that led in the early stages of the race, and coming over the line, you can see it in the background now for 3rd place, the Porsche of Paolo Roberti. And the man who started the car, Gianluca Roda, Raffaele Gianmaria, did a good middle stint, but he wasn't able to prevent the Ferrari 458 from escaping up the road. For 4th, Greg Franchi already home. We've seen him take the flag. And for 5th, Jean-Luc Bobelic, along with Ludovic Badet and Franck Morel, they've all done a good job in their respective stints in this car, are going to be not just 5th overall, but the winners of the Pro-Am Cup. The main aim really for them, but 5th overall, having led the race also in Badet's hands during the safety car interrupted first hour. A good effort, and the number 20 Ferrari 458, also the better place of the Sofrev ASP cars, comes over the line now. Jean-Luc Bobelic wins the Pro-Am Cup, and that has been a very good performance by all involved here in the second round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Fred Makovici is going to be 6th in the number 4 Aston Martin. Comes over the timing line now. Time lost early on, of course, with that drive-through penalty for Gilles Vannelet and Henri Moser in battles in traffic early on in the race. So the car is through for 6th. 7th is Albert Montona Taxis, and there for 8th place and 2nd in class, the Pro-Am Cup, is Paul Van Splinteren, Louis Machiels and Nick Homerson. 9th, the Scuderia Vittoria, Matteo Bobbi, Giacomo Petrobelli and Carlos Iaconelli, 2 laps down in the end. And 10th, number 6, Ricardo Bravo, Lorenzo Pero de Vega and Duarte Felix da Costa. And the marshals wave all the flags they can find to say congratulations to the drivers after another fascinating 3 hours. The last hour, I think it is fair to say, dominated by the number 1 Ferrari. But we've had some great battling through the field, and the Lotuses have got themselves together for what's going to be in the end a 1-3 in class. Number 61, the Lorenz Frey, Rolf Maritz, Freddie Bath. Lotus wins the class from pole position. 2nd in class, Chris Ward, Jordan Tresson and Alex Buncombe. Nissan troubled in the practice sessions yesterday, had an extra stop with a drama mid-race, so 2nd in class, a good result for them. And 3rd in the class will be number 70, Greg and Leo Mansell and Eduardo Piscopo, that was a lap leading at one stage but had that long pit stop for its gearbox problems. There's the car that wins the Gentleman Trophy, Fabien Michel and Georges Carbin. 2 in a row for Jolly Georges, because he was the man that won with Greg Gilbert, the class at Monza, in the opening round of the championship. And this $1 million grid making its way down the pit lane now. So 11 brands for this second round of the championship, and we've had some very encouraging performances from the likes of the BMW Z4. It's a shame that it had that shock absorber problem, which cost it plenty of time, but That car has certainly got potential, and it's going to be one to watch later on in the season. So the cars making their way towards the Parc Fermé area at the top end of the pit lane. And there you can see Ferrari, Lamborghini, Nissan, and the one car that the race officials want particularly is the winner, but Michael Bartels has had a very gentle in-lap, so he's in the middle of the queue of cars coming up the pit lane. So the SRO officials are waving him in their direction. They want also the top three from GT4. That's going to take a little bit of sorting out, as there you can see the Ferrari 458 bookending that queue of cars. Lamborghini and Porsche join the queue as well. And a great reception for the winning drivers. Gianluca Roda sprinting towards Paolo Roberti's car to say congratulations on third overall. As there is Felipe Albuquerque second, and Michael Bartels parked between Audi and Porsche. Ferrari, a true sports car name, scores victory. And Nico Verdonk and Frank Kekler understandably delighted with that. Nico Verdonk there to congratulate Michael, who packed the roof of the car. Well done, he said to the car. And having been concerned about its reliability, really, what they desperately want is a win in the Spa 24 Hours this year. And the car was unreliable at Monza. Certainly done the job here. So Vita 4-1 takes overall honours and in the Pro Cup as well. Michael Bartels, Frank Kekler and Nico Verdonk from Felipe Albuquerque, Stefano Telli and Bert Langin. And then third place, Paolo Roberti, Gianluca Roda and Raffaele Giammaria. The Pro-Am Cup won by number 20, Jean-Luc Bobelic, bringing the car home from number 2, Paul van Splunteren. And then number 6 in that class, which the Duarte Felix da Costa driven Lamborghini in the last stint. Stefano Telli there, saying well done to a rather warm-looking German driver, Michael Bartels, who goes and congratulates the rest of his team. Job well done there. Relatively easy last hour, I think even Michael would contend with. Didn't have to push too hard. A lot of the work was done after the second safety car period and into that middle stint of the race. So the drivers from Parc Fermé will make their way shortly up onto the podium. And then we have the podium ceremonies for the Pro Cup, for the Pro-Am Cup, the Gentleman Trophy and the GT4 Cup as well. We started the weekend with 31, 30 got to the grid, and in the end we had 23 still circulating at the end. So it was something of a rate of attrition here, and certainly more damage done to cars than we saw in the opening race at Monza. But it's been another intriguing round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, and the next one is going to be even more fascinating. We've seen what happens in 3 hours. 24 hours of Spa is next. Then an evening race at Magny-Cours and Silverstone on the 9th of October to complete this first season for this new for 2011 championship. And SRO in a sense taking GT racing back to the future, because it was really like this that the BPR Global GT Championship started in the mid-1990s, 3 and 4 hour races for a real mix of pro drivers and many gentleman racers, some of whom have come back in fact into GT racing thanks to this new series. And it's been another successful SRO concept, and we have a very happy winning Ferrari team with Michael Bartels, the player manager, having brought the car home for the flag. Let's hear from him now.
Congratulations, Michael, what a win for the team.
Yes, basically after not so successful weekend in Monza, we brought the Ferrari to the end in the 3 hour race. I'm very happy because we all worked hard, the team, the drivers, we believed in it. So the second race in our hands, the car, 3 hours survived. So looking forward for the 24 hours.
Thank you. And Nico, I spoke to you earlier, you said how much of a pleasure it is to drive that Ferrari.
Absolutely. I must say, besides driving this car, the guys did a fantastic job. I mean, they've worked day and night, literally, to get the car back up to good performance, which we showed finally here. We knew that we could do it. It was just a question of time, and finally we were here in Navarra, and we finished the job.
Thank you. And Frank, happy to be on top after the bad luck you had in Monza?
Yeah, really, really happy. Somehow the Navarra circuit lights seems to like me. I won here last year in the GT1 and now again in the GT3. Well, I think so much thanks to the mechanics, because they had really hard days in the last weeks, or more nights, you know. They barely slept, and so I'm really happy for them.
Thank you.
Frank Kekler, Nico Verdonk, Michael Bartels, then the winning 3 drivers in round 2 of the Blancpain Endurance Series here from Navarra. Second over the line for the Belgian Audi club was Felipe Albuquerque, Stefan Ortelli and Bert Langevin. Porsche finishing in 3rd place, the Autolando sport car of Roda, Gianmaria and Roberti. 4th Audi, Franchitti, Piccini and Fassler. 5th, winning the Pro-Am Cup, Morel, Bobolic and Badet, and then Fred Makovici, Gilles Vanelay and Henri Moser in 6th. Lamborghini 7th, Ferrari 8th, Ferrari 9th, Lamborghini 10th, Porsche finishing 11th, and the older Ferrari 430 coming home in 12th place, the Michel Petit, Eric Jouet car. 13th, the troubled Ford GT, that lengthy pit stop at the start of the race, but having rejoined outside the top 20. 13th, not that bad. 14th for Valentini, Balesi and Gira after spins and drive-through penalties, with Fabien Michel and Georges Cabin 15th, winning the Gentleman Trophy. The BMW Z4 16th after its lengthy stop. 10 laps down, Policon Guillard and Jus 17th ahead of Sunier, Renard and Hershey, who were in the gravel earlier on. And then 19th, the winning GT4 Lotus of Freddie Barth, Lawrence Fry and Rolf Maritz. And there you can see a number of the cars that didn't get as far as the checkered flag. The Ginetta that was up in flames, the 2 badly damaged Ferraris, and the alternator troubled Lamborghini that lost an engine in qualifying. Didn't get to the end either, with the alternator problem stopping the car very early on. Big disappointment for Peter Cox, but also big disappointment for Mark Hayek, the CEO of championship sponsor Blancpain. Pro Cup looks like this then. The top 4, as overall, up to 5th in class though, comes the Hexis AMR entry. That's the Fred Makovici, Gilles Vanelay, Henri Moser Aston Martin that finishes 5th in the Pro Cup for the pro drivers only. 6th being Eugenio Amos, Nicholas Malhoff and Albert von Thun and Taxis, Petrobelli, Bobby and Iaconelli 7th ahead of the Ford GT. But of the other classes, the Pro-Am Trophy, Pro-Am Cup, very competitive indeed this weekend, and Ludovic Badet, having taken the car into the lead of the race early on, doing a very good job for his 2 co-drivers, Franck Morel and Jean-Luc Bobolic, to come through and to score the victory, with 2nd Paul van Splunteren, Nick Homerson and Louis Machiels, and finishing 3rd in that class Roberto Bravo, Duarte Felix da Costa and Lorenzo de Vega. This is the top 3 overall, and indeed in the Pro Cup. You can see with the spectacles, Raffaele Gianmaria, Gianluca Roda in the middle, Paolo Roberti next to him. The 2nd place, out comes Bert Langevin, Stefan Ortelli and Felipe Albuquerque, the Portuguese driver then for the Belgian Audi club, finishing in 2nd place. But the biggest cheer of all, I suspect, from down in the pit lane is going to be reserved for the race winners. Here they come for Vita 4-1, Frank Kekler, Nico Verdonk, and there Michael Bartels victorious here at Navarra. Handshakes all round, and the 2 young guns and an old pro when it comes to winning in GT races make their way to the top step of the podium here at the Spanish circuit of Navarra.
Felicidades, el himno de Alemania,
So the winning drivers atop the podium here at the Circuit de Navarra have had the national anthem of the winning team, Vita 4-1, and now the trophies are going to be presented to the top 3 teams, starting with the Autolando Sport team. There's Gianluca Roda in the middle, Paolo Roberti and Raffaele Gianmaria flanking him, and Michel Ligenet, the man that runs the Navarra circuit and a former GT racer himself, and also a former historic racer, the man making the presentations. And with Michael Bartels then taking his team to a race win, along with Nico Verdonk and Frank Kekler, from Haley Coxon and David Addison here. For now, it's goodbye.